All right, so we are going to go ahead and get started. Just to kind of lay some framework, if we have a couple folks joining over the next few minutes, that's all right. I'll kind of just be setting the tone here for a few before we jump into all the demonstrations and ITSM specific information. So just starting out, my name's Owen Pyatt. I'm a solution architect here with Expium, a Valiantis company, and today we're going to be going over JSM and how it handles ITSM, or IT Service Management. So we're going to jump right in. So this webinar does build on a previous webinar that took place last week. Last week, we had Sarah Wright and Brad Wood do a wonderful job of taking you all through the fundamentals webinar. That really did a good job of laying the groundwork, setting some spatial awareness for you all, or for those that were there. Today's webinar is going to be a bit more advanced and looking at the specific ITSM feature set within Jira Service Management. I'm going to do my best to continually explain where we're at, how we got there, but there is quite a bit of clicking. So for those of you that maybe don't have a lot of Jira experience, maybe just sit back and watch it like a Netflix show. Just try to take it in from a high level. Here's what we can do, but don't try to get bogged down in the individual clicks and what all's going on in the back end. But for those of you that are experienced in Jira, I think you are going to get a lot out of this webinar. It is an hour. It's pretty action-packed. But things that went over in the fundamentals webinar, we talked through features provided through a specific project type, that project type being a service project. We talk about something that makes JSM really unique, which is the ability to have an unlimited amount of free customers. And customers, another word we like to use for that term, is requesters. So obviously there is an elevated agent cost. The JSM license itself is a little bit more expensive than a Jira software license, but you get the functionality of having unlimited free customers. So really cool feature there that was talked about last week. We also talked through the customizable customer portal, which is pretty fun to say, and some of the features that are available to customize your portal to make your customer experience as crisp and efficient as possible. We talk about prioritizing, how to manage a set of queues, a set of customizable queues within Jira Service Management. We also talk about how to configure and maintain a set of customizable service level agreements, as well as talk through how to connect Confluence directly to your portal and your entire help center, as well as automation for repetitive tasks. So a lot gets dealt with in that fundamentals webinar. It's definitely worth checking out. If you haven't seen it, it is totally free. Well, it's super free because now it's just on YouTube. So if you weren't able to watch it live, it is on our YouTube channel, and Kylie's going to be help moderating the chat. She did a wonderful job of planting that link in the chat. So, all right, well, let's go ahead and move into today's webinar. Kind of talk through some of the applications that are going to be used and discussed in order to show the full capabilities of ITSM. And I do also want to preface that what you're going to see today is close to the full capabilities of a lot of these tools, especially what we go over with change management. So don't feel overwhelmed that your change management process has to be, or incident management process has to be like this in the tool. This is a little bit of JSM flexing its muscles and showing you what it's capable of if you do have that scaled, mature process that's ready to get implemented into the tool. So we're going to be using Insight. That name may or may not be familiar to a lot of you folks. Insight is actually rebranded to Assets, and that's going to be our asset and configuration management tool. So that is native to JSM, so it's not an add-on, but It is only included at the cloud premium tier of licenses. So something to keep in mind there. Next, we will be talking about Opsgenie. Opsgenie is our alert and incident management tool. Kind of lives between your monitoring system and Jira Service Management if you'd like. It can also be a completely standalone tool, but with JSM, it is native and included at the premium tier as well. Moving on down the list, we're going to be using automation for Jira. Obviously, for those of you that are familiar with Jira, that's going to be something that is completely out of the box, and that is native with JSM Cloud. Not Cloud Premium. Really, the only advantage you get with automation in terms of premium or not is the amount of executions you are allowed. So at that premium tier, I don't want to say a number. I can't remember right off the top of my head, but it is a high usage amount. It is a big upgrade from the standard tier and standard tier of licensing, but totally included at the standard tier. Really quick, that usage also does only count for global execution. So rules that are looking into multiple projects or cross product. Then we will be discussing a little bit about Statuspage and kind of how to notify your customers of maybe a potential outage on one of your services, and that is a completely separate product. It is an Atlassian product, but it is an add-on, so not native to the tool. Little bit of information around the demos that we'll be going over today. We'll be touching on service management, which I know was touched on last week, but today we're going to be talking about service management and how to integrate our asset management tool, Assets, into that process. After that, we'll be discussing incident management, some of the features and functionality there, and then just after that, we will end the webinar today with discussing change enablement or change management. And we do have a Q&A queue. I see there's already a few questions in there, so feel free to drop some questions in there. If we have time at the end, I'll do my best to answer some of them. If not, I'll also do my best to follow up with you after the webinar. I'll have my contact information at the end of the webinar if you guys would like to reach out to me directly. All right, a little bit about Expium, a Valiantis company. So we are going through a merger with a company called Valiantis, which now makes us the largest and best platinum solution partner in the Atlassian ecosystem. So you may be seeing a bit of change of branding, like my cardigan says Valiantis, but our slides say Expium. So we're kind of in the transition phase there. But we still are Expium, a Valiantis company. Some of the services that we specialize in are going to be training, similar to like this webinar that you're sitting in now. But we also have paid for classes that can be for private groups or for students to attend online. So a lot of different ways there. We have a great Jira bootcamp. We have a bootcamp for just about every single Atlassian product at this point. Jira, Confluence, Jira Software, Confluence, Jira Service Management, Assets, Jira Line, Opsgenie. We have a whole host of training. And if there's a training that your team needs that we don't offer, we constantly are growing our curriculum database. So please feel free if you would like to learn from a group of Atlassian experts. Moving on, we also offer consulting services. We offer comprehensive consulting services across the entire Atlassian suite of products for both organizations both large and small. Something that is a little bit unique about Expium is everyone you talk to is an Atlassian certified professional and is also most likely a consultant. So delivering on scaling processes, building custom solutions in the tool, fully ingrained in the tool. So you're never just talking to a salesperson. You're always talking to someone extremely educated in the tool. Like myself, my full-time job here is a consultant, so working with a whole host of customers to solve their problems, as well as help scale their tool. Moving on down the line, to kind of preface this last piece, something we often say at Expium is nothing is impossible as long as you're willing to pay for it. We do have a custom development team that can build just about anything. So whether it be a custom front end, a special add-on just for your team, or custom integrations using the API keys, we can do it. So we have a extremely talented custom development team that does a great job of solving customers' advanced needs. And that's going to do it for my spiel. And we are going to move into our asset and service management demo. So who is this for? This is going to be for service teams and maybe specifically some IT teams. A common challenge that we see a lot of IT teams having to manage is the ability to easily track and manage their assets while simultaneously managing and tracking the service requests that are related to those assets. And the solution to that is an easy to maintain asset database that seamlessly integrates with our ticketing system, in this case, our ticketing system being Jira Service Management. The tools required for this demo are going to be Jira Service Management, Insight, now called Assets, and then automation for Jira. So I'm going to duck out of our slideshow here, and I'm going to head over to the Help Center. Now, this is where you guys spent a lot of time, or for those of you that were there, this is where last week at the Fundamentals webinar, a lot of time is spent talking through the Help Center. I am not going to give us a deep dive on the Help Center functionality today, like I've prefaced before, just because of the time constraint. So we are going to move right into our IT Service Desk portal here. And once I do that, I'm going to then go into our computers portal group. And I'm going to raise a request to request a new laptop. I will provide a little bit of spatial awareness here. So this is the form-based experience that we have attached to this specific request type. So this is a host of unique fields that only associate to this request type. Obviously can associate to more, but this is the unique form-based experience that your customers can have once they get to their specific request type. So at the top here, contact us about. This is really just a way for me to navigate to a different portal group. Say I'm in the right portal and then the right, but I'm in the wrong portal group. This is how I can navigate to a different portal group. And then here is how I navigate to the different request types within whichever portal group I'm in. And then just below that, we have raised this request on behalf of. Now, for those of you that are Jira agents, you're used to working in the tool, this is going to be the reporter. So if you want to raise, say you're a manager, you know that the person that works below you broke their laptop and you need to raise this request on behalf of them, you could go ahead and do that here. But I am going to raise this request on behalf of myself. Just below that, we encounter our first custom field, and that's going to be our reason for requesting a new laptop. And I'm going to select current equipment is damaged. And I'm going to say, I spilled some coffee on my laptop. Here in our description box, which is a full wiki rendered style box, you can customize your text, which we also did a deep dive on last week if you're curious about some of the wiki style rendered box capabilities, which you may be. So just below that, we have what looks to be a regular custom field, but this is our first encounter of our asset management database being integrated into our ticketing system. Like I said, our solution is for our problem. So when I select which model would you like, you're going to see that these options appear a little bit differently. So I'm going to select a MacBook Pro 16-inch, and we'll talk to what I'm actually selecting here in a little bit. Well, I'll talk to a little bit now. This is actually reaching into our asset management database, and I am requesting a specific object that is built out in our asset management database. So I'll go ahead and select MacBook Pro 16-inch, and then I'm going to go ahead and submit this ticket. Now, once my ticket is submitted, we see our form submission details here. So this is all the information that was gathered from the request form. Just to the right of that, we have a lot of information pertinent to the status of the ticket. So at the top here, well, we literally see the status of the ticket. Just below that, we can control whether or not our notifications are on or off for this specific request. This is as the customer. This is the customer view from the portal. This is all that a customer without agent access can access. Just below that, they can cancel this request. Just below that, they see which request type it is that they raised. Something to call out here, the customer, once the request is submitted, they cannot actually change the request type. Now the agent can on the back end of Jira, but actually in the tool, or I'm sorry, on the portal, the customer cannot change the request type. So if you end up realizing you filed the wrong request type, you can either cancel or potentially comment back to the agent, depending on the customer base setup, what kind of relationship there is there. If it's internal employees as customers, it's a small team, maybe you want to manage it by commenting and having the agent change the request type. If not, if it's a large variable set of customers, external customers from your organization, then I would say probably cancel this request. That was a little bit long-winded, but you can't change the request once the issue is submitted as the customer. Just below that, although you can't cancel the request, you can share the request with others. Those of you that are Jira agents, on the back end, that's going to be our request participant field. So that's going to be a link there between the two. And then just below that, we see a little bit of automation running. Like I said, there's going to be automation for Jira involved in this demo. Well, in all demos, as great of a tool as it is, it's hard not to use it. So we do see that there is an approval waiting. Now you may be saying, I wonder who that approver is. And you may not be saying that, but their automation did automatically set an approver for this ticket. And we'll talk to who that approver actually is as we head into the back end, which I'm going to do right now by selecting the issue key. Now don't get confused. A customer cannot select this issue key as a link into the back end, but if you have agent access, you can. That issue key will take you directly into the back end. And for those of you that don't have Jira experience, I really do apologize that I can't give explanations as to everything that you're seeing here, because I know it can be a lot to just look at. But we are going to just talk about what is unique and a few other things, but mostly what is unique to this service request with that asset management integration. And that's going to be starting with our asset object custom field, which I had mentioned briefly out on the request form from the customer point of view. But here on the back end, as an agent, there's a little bit more that I'm able to see associated to this asset object field. So I'm going to go ahead and select my drop down. Now, when I select my drop down, I'm seeing all of the information that is associated or specifically attributed to this object. Now, the object type is going to be our MacBook Pro 16-inch, but the specific object is our MacBook Pro 16-inch with this specific serial code or serial number. Although that's not displayed there, it is logged on the ticket. You can control which fields you would like to display in the object fields, which description fields or which attributes you'd like to display. But this isn't an actual object that I have selected. So we see it's a MacBook Pro 16-inch. We see that it's associated to Apple as the vendor. We see the screen size. We see some computer facts here. And then we also see the RAM and the storage. And then just below that, the really cool part is we see the status. Now, this is how, like I'd said before we started this demo, one of our solutions to the problem was an ability to not only provide visibility between our service request management and our asset management, but also to be able to actually manage that asset management database directly from our service requests. So now, because I've requested this laptop, the status has actually changed to offered. So back in my asset management database, if I were to view this object, I would see that this specific laptop has been offered to somebody with a link to the issue to go investigate if I needed to. So really cool functionality there of not only linking the asset management database, but also managing the asset management database directly from Jira. All right. So now we're going to discuss another asset object field that's kind of the opposite, because you may be saying, well, I see the new laptop, but what about the old laptop? So as we see down here in the details field, if I were to go ahead and select our drop down here for our affected equipment asset object field. I see that here is the laptop that I did have, that I did spill coffee on. So we see the name here, LTM, we see the serial number, and then just as though we saw the status for the new laptop change to offered, we see that the status for the previous laptop actually changed to damaged. So once again, this integration is just allowing us and helping us to manage our asset management database. So a lot of efficiency gains there, rather than your agent having to go scour through your, possibly massive asset management database to find a specific laptop and manually change the status to damaged, and then go find the other laptop and manually change that status to offered. It's all done automatically. So a lot of efficiency gains there, and you see that need for Jira Premium to access assets to be very valuable. So we see the status there changing. We have one more thing to talk about. It's going to be outside of our, well, I guess it is directly related to our assets, but it's more in lines with regular Jira fields, and that is going to be our approvers field. I know I talked about it just briefly before we headed into the back end, but as we see here, we see that Brian Dar was set as the approver of this ticket. Now you may be asking, how did the tool know to put Brian there? Well, that's because back in the asset management database, all of our employees are actually built out as objects. No, we are not treated as such, but we are built out and managed in the asset management tool. I am built out as an object, just as though I have a outbound reference to my laptop, my LTM BO2. I also have an outbound reference to Brian Dar as my manager. So that being said, automation for Jira is looking at assets, looking at my user profile, looking at who the manager is of my user, and then applying that manager to the approver field on the Jira Service Management ticket. So a lot of efficiency gains here. I am going to jump back into assets. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time here. Today's webinar is mainly focused on the demo, not necessarily on how it's all built. So here I am in assets, and I want to make sure we're staying on time here. So here I am in assets. Assets is a very scalable and robust tool. You can use it in a lot of different ways. As we see here, we have a test CMD built out, we have a CRM, but we also have our org chart built out. And I'm going to go ahead and jump into our object schema for employees. Now, once I'm in this screen, we're going to see that we then have an object type called employee, and then we have specific objects called employees, but by their name. So here we are, Owen Pyatt right here, and we see all of my information. So we see this is where all of our attributes are stored. To manage your attributes, you would just go over here to your attributes tab, and you could add new attributes, add the type. So right here, you do have to link, because the object itself is just text. So you do have to set a attribute type as a user, a Jira user, and then go in and select me or whichever user is associated to that object, so that Jira Service Management knows who to go look at when you have certain automations. So it controls the scope. We're going to head back out to objects. As we can see here, we can see a few inbound references. So I'm actually the manager of someone else. So someone is has a reference into my object, and then I also have an inbound reference with the laptop. So last piece that we're really going to touch on in assets, I know that we didn't spend a whole lot of time in here, but to kind of talk about how in-depth assets actually is, we have an assets bootcamp. It's I believe it's a 4-hour boot camp. It may be a 6-hour boot camp. It's a 2-day, I think it's 2-day, 6-hour boot camp. That's a deep dive on how to connect an asset discovery tool, how to manage the assets once they're in the tool, how to bring information in, how to connect it to Jira. So it's a really in-depth process, but all very user-friendly once all the information is in the tool. So the last thing we're going to look at is the object graph. It's kind of cool to look at. Is it super practical? I don't know. It kind of helps a little bit. It's just a way to kind of visualize all of those references. So we see myself here, my outbound reference to Brian Darr. We see my inbound reference from Brad Wood. We see that I'm associated to the St. Louis office. If I were to click into the St. Louis office, we then see all the employees or objects that are associated to the St. Louis office. So that's how you get to the object graph. It's a cool thing to do when you're maybe a little bit bored at work, kind of just drag that around. All right, so that's going to do it for our service management demo. We are going to head back out to our slides. And really quick, before we do that, let me just get everything set up to head back to the portal. And we're going to talk through incident management and how Jira Service Management handles, or one way that Jira Service Management can handle incident management. If this wants to load for me, we'll go talk to the slides first. All right, so incident management, who's it for? What are the challenges? What are the solutions? And what are the tools? So it's going to be for an IT ops team. The challenge, or a common challenge, is to respond quickly to get things back on track and ensure a proper follow-up. A solution to that is to have centrally managed alerting, tracking of deployments and service relationships, a central incident command center to integrate those different teams, and then integrated communication. So cross-team communications, cross-team visibility, and the tools we're going to be using to accomplish that is going to be Jira Service Management, Opsgenie, Statuspage, and Confluence. All right, now we'll go back out to the Help Center and see if that loaded. Looks like it still didn't. All right, and we're going to raise another request. So we're going to jump into, and we are running a little bit behind, so I am going to have to maybe hold back on some of the foundational explaining of where we are, but I'll still do my best. So we are going to head into servers and infrastructure portal group. And once I'm there, I'm going to report a system problem. So that's going to be our request type, as we're all familiar with what these fields do for us. I'm going to kind of skip over those and jump right to our summary. So I'm just going to say website is down. Oh, I always do that. It always gets me. The thing that Confluence is going to be doing in this demo, is going to be linking specific pages or articles to a request type, which can be really helpful. So whenever I start typing a certain word into the summary, it'll populate certain articles that are associated or linked to this request type. So as we see here, a web store is down, and then we also see add a gift card to the website. So neither of those are really going to be super helpful for us right now. I just can't access the main website. So I'm going to go ahead and skip those articles and just jump right into describe how it happened. I'm just going to say website is down again, because I'm not the most creative person. And then we'll jump down to our affected services tab. Once again, this does look like a normal Jira field, but it actually is a little bit unique. So this actually is a asset object field, just as some of those other fields were that we saw in the last request type. The thing that's unique about the affected services tab is that you actually don't need Jira Premium to access assets. So let me explain that a little bit. So our affected services are built out and configured within Jira, but the information is actually stored in assets, and then it's actually presented out on the form as an asset object field, even though it technically is or technically isn't, however you're looking at it. So you don't need Jira Premium in order to access services. You do just have to have the incident management toggle turned on. And we'll talk about how to actually turn these features on here in a little bit towards the end of the bootcamp, or towards the end of the webinar. So I am going to select website. And I also do want to preface, this is a multi-select field. So if multiple services are affected, by the outage you're experiencing, you can put, or your customers can put, multiple services there. We have the option to add a screenshot or drop a file in, maybe show the error message that we're seeing. And then we're going to select the urgency and the impact, which can be used on the back end to possibly set the priority. If you have some sort of priority matrix, you don't necessarily want to display priority out on the portal, which I totally understand, because we all know every customer is just going to say extremely high. So we're just going to say high, and we are going to say we'll say a significant and large, because this is our website. So I'm going to go ahead and submit that request. And once again, we see this familiar form submission screen. I'm not going to talk to all this again. We are going to jump right into the back end of Jira here. So I'm going to follow my issue key link. And we'll just start talking about what these features, or what this feature actually gets for us. So once again, let's jump back to our problem. We want to find the cause for this outage as quickly as we can, and as effectively as we can. So there's going to be a few tools that are going to help us do that now. The first tool that's going to help us do that is that affected services field that I said is technically an asset object field. So we're going to go ahead and show the details here. Now you may be seeing that there are a few other incidents, open incidents, I may say, that are also, seems like the website has been affected as well. And that it doesn't just seem like it. Sorry, I misspoke there. It literally is. Those are the other tickets where the website was selected as an affected service. So once again, just bringing in that cross team, possibly cross, incident response team communication, cross department communication. Hey, how did you guys solve this? What are you doing to solve this? Making sure there's no rework, making sure there's no redundancy there. And you may notice that you're the first team on it. So let's go ahead and start the conference call. Let's get some things going. We'll talk about the conference call feature here in a second. But this is kind of the first stop for that visibility across to other issues. And then just below that, we do see that this is also a tier 1 service. We're going to talk more about that, and it's going to play a bigger role in the change management demo, because affected services don't have to just live on incidents. They can also live on any type of service request. So this is a tier 1 service. So like I said, not going to play a big role for us now, but let's just remember that. You never put what is it? You never put a gun on the rack in the first act if it doesn't go off in the third. So that's kind of the gun on the rack there. It'll go off in the third demo. So moving on down, we have changes to affected services. So once again, like I said, you can have that affected services field live on change requests as well. So this is a great way to see, hey, who's making changes? Is there a change going on right now that could have impacted this service? So once again, pretty self-explanatory, but just added to that visibility, especially some cross-team visibility here. So I'm checking in on the development team, getting with Cab, saying, hey, what's going on? You guys broke the website. Or you could see that this is an unrelated problem. So there's some more investigating to do. All right, so, and we have one more investigative feature, and I always almost forget it because it's at the top, and we don't start at the top for this part, but we have our investigate button. So when we select our investigate button, if you have a CI/CD pipeline connected to Jira, which in this case we do, we have Bitbucket connected to Jira Service Management, we can see some recent code deployments that could have affected this service. So we see right here, we could click on this deployment here. We could follow our deployment key back into the back end of Bitbucket, see some more information around it. We're going to be spending more time in Bitbucket and seeing the integration there with change management. But great place to start. You could select this as a potential cause. We can add potential causes, and then that'll actually log itself on the ticket as a potential cause. So if you're starting to bring some other team members, some other stakeholders into the request, great place to start. They can jump right into a potential cause, which is a little bit more scoped down than just our affected services drop down, which is just everything that's associated to that service, or like our change requests, which is just every change request that's just blindly associated to that service. Whereas our potential cause is something that an agent has said, hey, I think this specifically might be a potential cause. Speaking of stakeholders, some of you may have noticed that we've got an extra button down here that says inform stakeholders. So we've got the ability to add an internal note. We've got the ability to reply directly to the customer, but now we also have this ability to inform just the stakeholders. So stakeholders, that might be a new term for some of you that have just been using JSM without any of these features turned on, but stakeholders are built out in that services setting. So it is a way to inform just the people associated to that service of what's going on. All right, moving over to the right-hand side of the screen, we see this major incident toggle. Now, although it does look kind of cool and gives us this cool label here, it's not super functional for us. Really, all it does, or one of the only things it does, is, if I get there fast enough, I'll show us, but everything's running a little bit slow. I'm going to go into our incidents work category that's displayed out on the main page, and then I'm going to go into major incidents. And so it's just one way to further report. So that's what that major incident toggle does. I'm sorry it's taking so long, but basically it'll throw that issue into our queue here. All right, moving down the list, we have this option to start a conference call. Now this is really cool. We'll go ahead and select start that call. And if you haven't seen enough of my face already, you should see me all over again if this once again wants to load. So we have this ability to start a conference call. Oh, I'm not allowed to show my face again. So we could enter this session, and what's really cool is this conference call is going to be joinable throughout the lifespan of this ticket. So really cool way to get your stakeholders all involved, especially for an incident that's involved with a tier 1 service. Get that communication going to, once again, resolve that issue as quickly as possible. Just below that, we have the chat channel. So if you do have Microsoft Teams or Slack connected to Jira, you can start a Slack channel directly out of the ticket and do that there. We actually don't have those set up to our demo site. And then you also can have Zoom be that conference call for you. But what's really cool about the conference call is this actually runs through Opsgenie, which is included in Jira Service Management. Just below that, we have our responders tab. Now our responders are built out in Opsgenie, whereas our stakeholders are built out within Jira Service Management. And that's going to kind of do it for our Jira kind of issue view overview. I am going to jump into Opsgenie and kind of show us some of the capabilities there. We're not going to be able to spend a whole lot of time in Opsgenie. Once again, we also do have a full boot camp on Opsgenie. It's another 4 to 6 hour boot camp, deep dive on all things Opsgenie. It is just a rather in-depth tool, just like most things are in the Atlassian suite. Nothing's super simple. We'll give that a second here to load. So as we start off, we see all of our alerts that are in the system. And before we go any further, let me just kind of preface once again what Opsgenie actually is. It's an alerting tool, like I said at the beginning of the webinar, that's going to live in between our monitoring tool, our monitoring system, and Jira Service Management. So not every alert has to become a Jira issue, but it can if you'd like. We'll head over to our Teams tab. And we'll go ahead and jump into the IT Ops team. Within the Teams tab, this is where you're going to be able to build out your custom routing rules, your custom escalation policies, as well as your custom on-call schedules to maybe auto set certain people or teams to tickets or alerts once they come into the system. We're going to kind of move down the sidebar here. We're going to jump into integrations. Now, Opsgenie is really only as powerful or as helpful as the integration that it has. So if I would just go ahead and select add integration, and this is where you would actually come to link or integrate your monitoring tool or any specific services that you monitor directly to Opsgenie. So all the big players are here. If you do happen to scroll through this list and you can't find your service or monitoring tool, there is the ability to use the API key to connect directly. So if you have access to the API token on your monitoring tool or your service, you can directly link it that way. Now I'm going to go back out to our Teams tab here. And the last thing we're really going to touch on within Opsgenie is going to be our heartbeats. So heartbeats are a really cool feature within Opsgenie. It's a way to ping a specific service. You would send a heartbeat. So right here we have a Nagios heartbeat built out. So every 10 minutes, that's the interval that we have set. A ping gets sent out to Nagios. If Nagios fails to send the heartbeat back every 10 minutes, an alert is immediately created, and then you can configure what happens once that alert is created. So Opsgenie is a fully standalone alerting tool, but it does integrate really well with Jira Service Management. And if you do already have a active Opsgenie instance and you're on Jira Service Management Premium, you can combine them and integrate them that way for billing as well, which is really helpful because it's included at that premium level. You don't want to be paying twice for it. All right, so let's head back to our slides, and we are going to jump into our change management demo, and that will round us out for us here today. So change enablement or change management within Jira Service Management, who is this going to be for? That is going to be for our change managers as well as our developers. Now, what is the challenge here? The challenge is to manage risk, coordinate changes, and ease the bureaucratic effort between departments and teams. And the solution for that is an automated risk assessment, ticket creation, and ticket resolution. So a lot's going to be happening on this change management demo. It is really cool. Once again, this is kind of the tip of the spear in terms of change management within Jira Service Management and Jira Software. We're going to be integrated between two products here. So we could add we could add Jira Software to that tools list because that's actually where we're going to be spending most of our time, because that's where developers spend a lot of their time. But this is kind of, like I said, the tip of the spear in terms of change management within JSM and Jira. So don't get overwhelmed if this is nowhere near what your process is like. Your process could be a change portal with the change request that gets auto-assigned and shown to your cab, and that could be your change management, which is totally fine. This is just kind of what it's fully capable of. So we're going to jump back into the tool, and instead of going out to the portal, like I said, we're actually just going to go ahead and create a software ticket. Man, things are moving really slow, which isn't a great sign for this demo because there's a lot of loading that happens. So we're going to raise a ticket in our sample Scrum project. And I'm going to go ahead and set a summary here, and that's going to be add euro to the payroll. Awesome. No other information is directly specific or needed for us right now, but obviously this is just our create screen that can be edited with different Jira fields. Unfortunately, in Jira Software, we don't have that ability of adding form fields. This is just Jira fields. And what I mean by Jira fields are just custom and system fields, whereas in JSM, we have that added functionality of form fields, which aren't necessarily logged as Jira fields. So we'll go ahead and create that ticket. And I'm going to go view that issue. And now I'm going to jump over to Bitbucket. We'll pretend, and I put emphasis on pretend, that I'm a developer. So I'm a developer. I raised my request. Awesome. Now I'm going to go in and I am going to make an update to our payroll system. So I'm going to go into our repo here. I'm going to go into our source code, which is not source code at all. It's simply text. And I'm just going to go make a little edit and update to our code here. And there is a little bit of downtime during this demonstration, but this is an extraordinary amount of downtime. Let me try to re-click on that. There we go. The downside of a live demo. All right, so we're going to go into our source code here. I'm going to go ahead and select edit. And I'm going to go ahead and make an update. I'm just going to go ahead and clear out my name there. And I am going to commit. Now, once I commit, I'm going to be prompted to make a commit message. And I'm just going to say added euro to the payroll system. And a little bit of internal process change management that's required for something like this process to work is going to be making sure your developers know to log the issue key of that software ticket in the commit message. So I am going to commit this code and deploy it to production. Now, for those of you that are potentially in cab, you may be saying to yourself, oh my gosh, there was no change request that was raised. And that is because something took place on the back end. So let's go into our pipeline here, and I'm going to just make sure that that deployed. So it's still in progress. So a few things are going to happen once that code actually deploys to production. This is the part that starts taking a little while. Start answering some of these questions while that loads. These ITSM features are not available in Data Center. I'm sorry if I didn't preface that enough at the beginning, but this is the ITSM feature set is just for cloud, not Data Center. So something to definitely keep in mind if you're planning on migrating from Data Center. Still in progress. Oh my goodness. Things are running very slow. Take a look at some of our other questions here. Okay, it looks like it's running. Yeah, for more information on how to leverage assets with Jira Service Management, like I said, we do have an in-depth bootcamp. There's a lot of really good documentation as well as far as building out your asset management database. Awesome, so that code did deploy. Now let's jump back to our software ticket. We're going to notice a few things that have happened. Awesome. So we're waiting for one more piece of information over here. Awesome. So in our details pane, we see that there has been one commit that was associated to this ticket, and that's because remember that commit message that I made. That's what actually links this. Links that deployment to this ticket. Now you may have noticed the massive linked issue right in the middle of the screen, and that's actually a change request. So we're gonna select this, and this is actually going to take us. This is where there's kind of a lot of clicking. This is going to take us back to Jira Service Management, where a change request was actually created automatically when I deployed that code. Now you may be saying, why in the world would I want my change request to not only get created as well as actually completed without CAB even looking at it? Well, that is because the payroll system is a tier 3 service. Remember I said that was going to go off during our final act, and it did. So our tier 3 service, this is a standard change. We're totally familiar with this process. We've pre-approved every change that goes on with our payroll system. So, which obviously may not be in totally real life, but this is one way to manage standard changes. in Jira for a specific tier 3 service that you may have. And then, like I said, that ticket did get automatically sent to done. The summary was automatically set, and the tickets were linked together. So a ton of efficiency gains there. It's bypassing the need for CAB to look at the ticket. It's bypassing the need for an ITSM agent or a JSM agent to raise the change request. All of that happened automatically. There's no need to transition that JSM ticket. That happened automatically. So a lot of automation for Jira running in the background, but super, super efficient in terms of handling standard changes. Now, let's talk about handling a normal change, something that may be associated to a tier 2 or tier 1 service. So to do that, I'm going to create another software ticket, and I'm going to place the summary here and say mobile app needs update. Awesome, and I'm going to go ahead and create that ticket. And I'm going to go ahead and view the issue. And that's going to take me, obviously, to the issue, like we've already seen. Now I'm going to jump back out to Bitbucket, head back out to my repos, and I'm going to select mobile app. And once again, I'm going to make all of this up to the deployment is going to be the same. So I'm going to head into the source code. I'm going to make another change here. Well, it's actually the same change, just to a different code. So, so sorry, I apologize for the slow network. If that was something that I could control, unfortunately, it's not. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete my last name, just like we did out on the other one. And I'm going to go ahead and commit. Like I said, we have that commit message, just the same. Change to, or we'll say update to mobile app. And once again, we're going to log that issue key here in the commit message. And we're going to go ahead and commit the change, but we're going to notice something a little bit different here, as this is a gated deployment, because I hate to spoil it, but because the mobile app is a tier 1 service. So we'll go into our pipeline, and we will go into the code deployment here. And we're going to let that run for a second, kind of revisit some of our questions here. Yes, automation for Jira is fully available at any tier. Like I'd said, the main difference is going to be that the amount of usage that you're going to get for global automations. For single project automations, you get an unlimited amount of executions, but for anything global, and a global rule is actually just any issue that's associated to more than one project. So if it's 2 projects that you're looking at, or scope 2, that's going to count as a global rule. All right. And the device status field within assets, that is a customizable field. So that is certainly something that you guys could tailor to your process. All right, so here we see that the change request is now pending. So it actually would not deploy, and it says that there's a change request. So let's go out to our ticket and out to our software ticket, and we'll go ahead and refresh that. Once again, we see that the tickets are now linked, but as you can see, this is at a different stage in the life cycle of the ticket. So I'm going to jump into our issue link wormhole that's going to pull us into Jira Service Management. And like I spoiled just a few minutes ago, if I drop down my asset object field here, I see that the mobile app is a tier 1 service. So because of the automation that we have built out, the tool knows to force an approval by CAB. So we have all of our CAB members that were set as approvers before that code can actually deploy to production. So we see here it's waiting for approval. For the sake of the demo, I'm going to add myself as an approver here. And I'm going to head back out to approvals. and I'm going to approve this change. Say, I trust this developer. He seems like a really cool guy. It was me. So we approved that ticket. Now, once I transition this issue to implementing, I'm going to do my best my best job at clicking over back into Bitbucket as quickly as we can so we can see the automation take place. So I transition that issue to implementing. Now I'm going to head back to Bitbucket. I did it in time, and we see that this code is now actually deploying to production. And then there's one more piece of the puzzle here. I'll revisit our Q&As one more time before we wrap things up. So the urgency field is a customizable field, so you can add and take away values from that field. If you were seeing some different values, some different options on our urgency field, that's just because we have a custom build out here. Yeah, yeah, if we have someone here that might be interested in a tutorial on Opsgenie. Like I said, that is going to be one of our boot camps. So please follow up with myself or Kylie after, and we'd happily get you some information on how to attend that class. Yes, Michael, you can. Yes, that's all taking place within automation for Jira. We are controlling where those tickets get created. As you can see, we also controlled which approvers it got set even, so you can get really specific with your actions within automation for Jira. So integration with Bitbucket, that's a great question. So Bitbucket is actually a separate tool. So you would have to purchase that tool. It's not included in Jira Service Management like Opsgenie is. But you can connect other CI/CD pipelines, or you can connect those CI/CD pipelines to Bitbucket if you are storing that information somewhere else, especially your full code repos. This is taking a very long time, and I apologize, but it looks like we might have timed things out pretty well here, as we just have a minute or two left. I'll have my contact information. I'm sorry if I didn't get to every single question. Please feel free to follow up with me with some questions that are a little bit more in-depth or maybe more process specific. And I will happily answer those questions. So just all hang out for a minute or two while this deploys. I apologize for the long wait, but sometimes just a little bit slow. Goodness. If this ends up taking much longer, I guess I'll just talk to what happens, because we've already seen a lot of the cool stuff, especially just like the change request getting created with cab set as the approvers. Just give this a bit longer before I spoil the end. See if there's any other questions that are a little bit easier to answer with the time we have left remaining. So that device status field, sorry if I miss. Yes, Michael, Opsgenie will be included with your JSM licenses. So if you do have Opsgenie already and you want to integrate the two, it is possible. It's a little bit of little bit of a job, but you can combine those licensing. And yes, you should have access. And you know, while we're waiting here, let me just go talk to how to actually turn these features on, because you may be thinking, how does that actually happen? So I'm in my service project. I'm in project settings. Now I'm going to go. Wow, that is taking forever. Now I'm going to go. So I'm in project settings. I'm going to go to features. Right here at the top, just under details, people. For those of you that are familiar with Jira Service Management, you're probably like, oh my gosh, how have I never seen that button? Or maybe you're like, oh my gosh, I see that button all the time. I just don't know what it is. So within that features tab, you then have a very user-friendly, just simple toggle of how to turn all these features on. Customer Service Management, that's something that's in the pipeline right now. They're trying to, looks like we're moving along here. Should wrap up in just 1 second. I'm so sorry to hold you guys. I know we're at time, but this is where you'll come to actually turn those features on. What happens when you turn those features on is you do get a new custom set of issue types. You also get these work categories, these work categories with custom out-of-the-box queues that, so if I were to go into problems, I'd see all my open problems. So those are queues that do happen automatically. Well, I am so sorry. I don't know if we're going to get to see the auto closing. I know we're after time here. Well, I guess I'll just talk to it. I've tried to wait it out, but so what's going to happen is that code is going to deploy, and then once it does, my change request is going to, my change request is going to auto close and auto complete. So, oh my goodness, it's taking forever. I've never seen it take this long. So my change request will auto complete, and that does round out our demo. I apologize for the delay. Let me check one more time. Okay, it's really not going to do it. But because of that approval, because I moved it to implementing, it's going to run, it is going to deploy, and then our change request will be closed and transitioned to done. Maybe check one more time. Okay, I'm done checking. But I really appreciate everybody coming to the webinar. I really apologize that I wasn't able to show that last piece. Hopefully I could talk to it clearly enough to where you understand the gist. I think you got to see all of the stuff that's all the meat and potatoes of the change management demo. It functions just similarly to how our tier 3 service did, just auto closes that ticket once the code deploys. So, oh my gosh, it did it. Okay, now I'll go ahead and refresh, and my change request will be completed. So that's the demo. Thank you guys so much. There we go. Thank you guys so much for attending. I'll show my information here and some information. For our next boot camps, please go ahead and scan either QR code. The one on the right, it's going to take you to our expium.com/training, all of our upcoming webinars and boot camps. And then the one on the right will take you to my LinkedIn. If you guys want to connect and message me there, there's my name and email as well if you want to follow up with me via email. Thank you guys so much. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you.